Flipmill presents 7 of the worst workers. Number 1. 69-year-old Joaquin Garcia works for a water company in Spain. Although works is perhaps a term used loosely. He was employed by them to oversee the building of a new water treatment facility in Cadiz, although he didn't show up for work for more than 6 years. His employers only found out in 2010 when he was due to receive an award for his long service. Apparently, his lack of attendance at his workplace went unnoticed because of failed communications between the water company he was working for and the local authorities. Garcia had been earning around 37,000 euros a year for his no-shows at work. After being found out, he was given a fine of 27,000 euros. He then decided to retire. Number 2. 44-year-old Frédéric Dainard, who lives in Paris, the capital city of France, has begun an employment tribunal against his employer. Now, there are many instances where this is an entirely appropriate action. Being treated unfairly at work, payment issues, or boredom. That's right, Dainard's case against his workplace is due to having no work to do and subsequently suffering from what he calls bore-out. Dainard worked in a manager's position in a perfume company, and he claims that the job was so boring it actually affected his mental health, likening it to the familiar but opposite end of the scale, burnout. He insists that for a 4-year period between 2010 and 2014, he was not given an appropriate amount of work related to his role by the company, instead being instructed to undertake boring, menial tasks. He is asking for $414,000 of compensation payouts for damages caused and holiday salary. The case is said to be the first such claim in the country. Number 3. Everyone knows what it's like to have a shared space to store your food in a work canteen or office. Even with labels and perhaps warning signs, there's every chance that when you go to get your lunch, someone else has beaten you to it. Well, an assistant manager at the company Family Dollar, located in Kansas, had just about enough of the food stealing going on at his workplace, and he wasn't going to let the thieves get away with it any longer. He plotted revenge on the scroungers and came up with a plan. He put 2 bottles of Coke in the shared fridge, hoping they'd be swiped. These were no ordinary bottles of Coke, though. They, in fact, had been laced with 25 laxatives mixed into the fizzy drink. Unfortunately, the bottles of pop weren't pinched, but put on the store shelves in the shop, where they were then bought by an unsuspecting lady. She ended up in the hospital after drinking the laced cola, and claimed against the company to a sum of 6 figures. The food robber was found though, and along with the assistant manager who had laid the trap, was arrested and we assume sacked. Number 4. Stephen Conrad was working as a groundsman in a cemetery in the state of Wisconsin when he took it upon himself to go grave robbing in the name of music. As a keen musician and collector of musical instruments, he couldn't just let it lie that a $2,000 guitar was being laid to rest and decided that the Fender should be rescued. It had been due to be buried with an Army veteran who had expressly stated that his beloved guitar be buried with him. Conrad's reasoning for his misdemeanor was that the guitar's worth was too great to just let it decompose. He claimed that he had never done anything like it before. He was caught when the family of the dead man noticed, just before it was sealed, that the Fender was no longer in the coffin. Conrad was arrested and charged with theft from a corpse, for which he spent a year in prison. The Fender was given back to the grieving family, and we assume ended up buried with its rightful owner. Number 5. The number 1 rule of looking after another person's child has got to be not to leave them when you go home from work. But that's exactly what happened at one Dallas nursery. The employee had shut the nursery for the evening and she decided to go home. But the nursery wasn't empty. When Ashley Hunter went to pick up her little girl, she discovered that the nursery had been closed and her 14-month-old daughter was still inside. Frantic, she phoned the police, who arrived to break down the door and rescue the little girl. When questioned, the worker claimed not to have known that all the children hadn't been picked up, and the incident was put down to human error. Thankfully, the child escaped the ordeal with no harm. Number 6. Bob was one of the lucky ones in a job where he was paid a 6-figure salary per year and received excellent performance reviews for the work that he did. But he wasn't doing the work. Oh, it was getting done, just not by Bob. He had outsourced his work to a consulting company in China and proceeded to fill his own time with surfing the internet for funny cat videos and browsing eBay. His con was discovered when his workplace ordered an investigation into the security of the computer systems after it was noticed that someone from Shenyang was logging in. They assumed at first they had been hacked, but it was found that the login linked back to Bob's VPN. They gave him the benefit of the doubt at first, thinking that he was the victim of the hackers, but when they checked out his PC, they discovered the truth. Number 7. You thought Joaquin Garcia's 6-year absence was bad. Well, wait until you hear about A.K. Verma. He phoned work to explain he was ill in 1990 and never went back. What's more surprising is that nothing was done about his absence for nearly 25 years. He had been an assistant executive engineer for the Indian Central Public Works Department. His absence was noted by the company after 2 years, and they began disciplinary proceedings. This led to him losing his job, but not until 2015. The case was in the courts for 7 years before the company were able to terminate his employment. Do you have any crazy work-related stories? Let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this.